Imagine a world where silence weighs as heavily as the air itself. A place where the sun wakes for hours and hides for months, and where breath crystallizes into tiny stars before it leaves your lips. This is Antarctica, a continent of extremes, where the temperature can plummet to 71 degrees Celsius, and life, against every expectation, persists. Close your eyes for a moment. Hear the wind, an unending exhale across ice fields that stretch farther than memory. Hear the distant wind, low frequency. Here, sound travels with a hollow clarity. Ice groans, a distant crack like a cathedral door closing. Penguins calling in curt, urgent bursts. It is a place written in white and blue, but read with every sense other than sight. Life at 71 degrees C is not an absence. It is negotiation. Organisms and humans becoming architects of survival. Microbes gather in hidden pools, warmed by the faintest ray of sunlight and the heat of volcanic vents beneath the ice. Lichens creep across rock like patient script, gathering scarce warmth and converting light into life. Seals carve breathing holes in ice, timing their surfacing with the patience of tides. Penguins tuxedos against the blinding glare, huddle, shuffle, and rotate to share a warmth that is communal necessity. Imagine skin numb to the touch, fingers that ache as if old stories were rebelling against motion, and yet the human heart still quickens at sunrise. Stations, clusters of human ingenuity, rise on stilts and platforms. Inside, modern alchemy happens. Warm air, hum of generators, the gentle click of instruments measuring the planet's heartbeat. Quick favor before we begin. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And if this story moves you, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss our future deep dives. The environment is both fragile and indifferent. A sudden storm can turn a flat horizon into a living wall of snow. Visibility drops to a memory. Compasses spin with quiet protest. But the adaptations are astonishing. Weddell seals build the thick blubber like built-in jackets. Antarctic krill swarm in clouds so dense they feed entire food webs. From the microscopic to the monumental, life has learned to dance to a rhythm measured in ice. Nights are different here. When the sun drops, it drops for months. Stars roll out in a black so clean it stings. The aurora, green and purple ribbons, moves like a slow conductor across the sky, and researchers step outside in muffled suits to watch and note, to feel their own smallness beneath a cosmic display. Survival for humans is ritualized. Clothing is layered like armor. Base layers trap sweat, insulating layers trap warmth, and outer shells deflect the shear of wind. Food carries not just calories, but morale. Warm soups, concentrated proteins, the strange comfort of a shared cup. Shelter is engineered, elevated to avoid snow burial, insulated to hold human heat, and wired with redundancies because a simple failure can escalate into a crisis. Logistics are a choreography. Supplies arrive on cargo planes and ice-strengthened ships, windows of access determined by sea ice and weather. Each resupply is a small miracle, timed with the patience of those who know how quickly a continent can change its face. Waste management here is strict. Nothing left behind, everything accounted for. Because Antarctica, in law and in ethic, is held as a global trust. The wildlife is astonishingly adapted. Emperor penguins endure huddles that shift like living mosaics, balancing the needs of chicks with the cold that would otherwise take them. Leopard seals patrol the ice edge with a predator's nonchalance. Orcas move with mechanical grace, hunting in cooperative precision. Above, petrels and skuas ride wind and draft, picking at the ocean's abundance. Yet the sting of cold is only part of the story. Light behaves strangely here, sharp, reflective, and at times blinding. The ultraviolet glare can etch skin and ice alike, so goggles and visors become more than accessory. They are medicine. The calendar changes meaning. Seasons are not just weather. They are timekeepers of life cycles. Phytoplankton blooms in summer trigger cascades of feeding. Breeding seasons are synchronized to the flick of light, to the thaw of a shoreline. Antarctica is also an archive of our planet's history and a barometer of its future. Ice cores pulled from deep below the surface reveal dust, volcanic ash, and greenhouse gases trapped across millennia. Dory, each layer is a sentence. Together, they form a verdict we cannot ignore. Scientists read these lines for clues, for temperature, for carbon, for the rhythm of ice advance and retreat. Life in 71 degrees C tests the human spirit. Isolation presses like a long winter night on the psyche. Teams rotate, rituals emerge. Movie nights, shared meals, the small rebellions of music and letters. Communication with the outside world can be patchy, but radio and satellite become threads that stitch researchers to home. Community becomes survival, companionship, and essential technology. Then there are the sounds you never expect. The distant crack of a calving glacier, heavy and final. The clatter of ice falling into sea. The hush after a storm, so complete you can hear the slow ticking of an instrument counting the heartbeat of the world. At 71 degrees C, the ordinary becomes monumental. Every step is attention, every breath an event. But do not mistake resilience for invulnerability. Climate shifts are changing the rules. Ice shelves thin, glaciers retreat, and some species shift their ranges in response. The human role is double-edged. Scientists come with curiosity and care, but they also carry footprints. Policies, the Antarctic Treaty System, attempt to balance exploration with protection, science with preservation. Every decision here is magnified because Antarctica's systems touch the whole planet. Picture a sunrise over an unbroken plain. First a pale gold, then a fierce white. The camera pulls close to frost on a beard, to the puff of a penguin's breath, to a researcher's gloved hand adjusting an instrument. These are the intimate details that reveal the scale of survival. And yet, amid the austerity, there is an austere beauty that teaches humility. The continent demands respect for its animals, for its ice, and for the fragile balance that allows life to persist at 71 degrees C. It asks of us attention, long-term thinking, and the courage to act beyond borders. When you leave, you carry with you a memory that is almost tactile. The sting of cold, the silence that amplifies small kindnesses, the knowledge that life always finds a way. Antarctica does not yield its stories quickly. They arrive in patient fragments, in cores and in coals, and in the stubborn grit of microbes beneath the ice. If we are to preserve this place, and the global systems it helps regulate, our choices must reflect the urgency written in its layers. Listen to the ice. Read the layers. Honor the small lives that knit this place together. Stay with the images. Watch the huddles. Hear the wind. Learn what it means for our world, if this white heart warms. For in Antarctica, the future writes itself in ice, and its message is for all of us. We must listen, act, and protect this frozen archive for the sake of oceans, weather, and generations yet to come. Starting now, beyond the white horizon, life in Antarctica writes itself in rhythms that are slow and exact. The continent is a classroom for extremes, and every experiment here teaches a lesson about limits and possibility. Scientists probe the chemistry of snow, tracing isotopes that hint at ancient winds. They listen to the deep tremor of glaciers, as if the ice were a sleeping giant coughing in its sleep. Instruments hum, record and transmit tiny truths that, when woven together, reveal how connected this frozen place is to the rest of the world. Field teams become translators between worlds. They read subtle signals, a shift in sea ice thickness, the appearance of a new melt channel, the timing of a krill bloom. These are not mere observations. They are acts of stewardship. Data gathered here enters global models, informs policy, and helps coastal communities thousands of miles away prepare for sea level changes. Antarctica functions as both mirror and messenger. What happens here does not stay here. Every day on the ice carries a choreography of caution. Vehicles are fitted with special tires, fuel must be stabilized against gel, and safety briefings are thorough and ritualized. The smallest oversight can spiral into danger. Teams practice crevasse rescue until each movement is reflex, and every expedition carries redundancy. Extra food, spare parts, and the quiet confidence that comes from preparation. There is a humility in that preparedness, an admission that nature here is vast and indifferent, and that human ingenuity must operate with respect. But ingenuity takes many forms. Engineers design wind turbines that can survive snow burial. Biologists coax samples out of frozen soils, seeking signs of life that could rewrite our assumptions about biological thresholds. Remote sensors dot the ice sheet, taking measurements in conditions no person could endure for long. Drones now map crevices, and satellites watch seasonal shifts with patient constancy. Technology extends human senses, allowing us to read this landscape without always being in it. And yet the human presence remains essential for interpretation and context. The stories here are personal. A young researcher on her first winter recounts the shock of stepping into a night that lasts for months, of learning the small comforts that become lifelines, a well-timed cup of tea, the ritual of checking an instrument at dawn, the camaraderie of sharing nonsense to stave off homesickness. A veteran field mechanic remembers storms that rewrote plans, and the quiet satisfaction of fixing a generator with gloved hands. These stories are anchors, humanizing the data and reminding us why so many choose to live at the edge of endurance. Wildlife offers its own narratives. Penguins are more than icons. They are barometers. Changes in their breeding success or distribution often signal shifts in ocean health. Seals and whales, moving through a maze of ice, reveal the hidden bounty or scarcity of the Southern Ocean. Even the smallest organisms, like krill and phytoplankton, form the base of a food web whose health reverberates through species and economies. Observing these cycles teaches us about resilience and fragility in equal measure. Climate change appears here not as an abstract chart, but as physical alteration. Ice shelves that once held firm develop fractures, and glaciers accelerate toward the sea. The loss of shelf ice can lead to the unchecked flow of inland ice, a process that raises sea levels far from these shores. Scientists document these changes with urgency and precision, not to alarm, but to inform. The story Antarctica tells is evidence-based. Warming trends recorded in cores, shifts in species, ranges catalogued with photographic and acoustic records, changes in ocean chemistry measured in millikelvin increments. Each dataset is a thread in a larger tapestry of planetary change. Human responsibility is a recurring theme. The Antarctic Treaty binds nations to peaceful scientific collaboration and strict environmental protection. Research stations follow protocols that minimize footprint, and cleanup efforts reclaim past debris. Yet enforcement is a collective challenge. The continent's remoteness complicates oversight, and global pressures can create competing interests. Still, the ethos of shared guardianship persists among those who work here. Many who visit leave with a sense of duty, an ethical weight that translates into advocacy, education, and local action at home. There is also beauty in the mechanics of survival. Observe the ballet of the emperor penguin huddle, individuals trading places from the periphery to the center, a slow-motion exchange of heat and solidarity. Watch a seal slip into a newly opened polynya, a dark window in the ice where the sea breathes. Look closer and witness how lichens and mosses claim bare rock outcrops, celebrating small gains in a landscape dominated by winter. These are quiet triumphs, not of conquest, but of coexistence. Nighttime science has its own poetry. Under the aurora, researchers can perform experiments free from solar interference. Radio telescopes take advantage of long nights to scan the cosmos, and ice-penetrating radar reveals hidden lakes and subglacial rivers that flow beneath the mass of the ice sheet. These subglacial environments are among the planet's last frontiers, isolated ecosystems that have evolved in darkness for millennia. Sampling them raises ethical and scientific questions. How to explore without contaminating, how to learn without disrupting. Logistical feats sustain every project. Icebreakers carve paths through frozen seas to deliver heavy equipment. Aircraft equipped with skis land on compacted snow runways. In the peak of summer, when sea ice loosens its grip, a swarm of activity pulses across the continent. Tents, tracked vehicles, and the low hum of a community at work. Yet the window for such operations is narrow. Timing, weather forecasting, and the cooperation of international partners all determine what is possible in any given year. Education and outreach extend Antarctica's influence into classrooms around the world. Live feeds, virtual tours, and citizen science projects allow students to follow penguin colonies, track icebergs, and analyze climate data. These connections democratize knowledge, inspiring new generations to care about polar processes. When a child in a coastal town watches a researcher deploy an instrument on a distant ice flow, the abstract becomes tangible. That bridge between curiosity and understanding is vital if global stewardship is to take root. Ultimately, the story of Antarctica is a story of scale, of tiny organisms sustaining vast ecosystems, of isolated research stations informing global policy, of glaciers that write sea-level futures. It is a story that asks each of us to consider our footprint and our responsibility. The choices we make in cities, farms, and factories ripple toward these polar shores. The models built with Antarctic data inform planning for coastal resilience, fisheries management, and climate mitigation. As the film draws toward its close, imagine once more the continent at dawn. The world here is spare and exacting, its processes slow and consequential. The human presence is small but meaningful, a discipline of curiosity, humility, and care. If we listen, Antarctica offers a ledger of the past and a cautionary forecast for the future. It reminds us that stewardship is not a local act, but a global commitment. Carry this image with you. A world of ice where life persists through ingenuity and adaptation, where science translates silence into knowledge, where the smallest actions, from reducing emissions to supporting conservation policy, echo across hemispheres. Let the stark beauty of this place sharpen your sense of urgency and your capacity for stewardship. When the credits roll, let that urgency remain. Let it inform conversations, choices, and policies. Antarctica is not merely a distant spectacle. It is a crucial voice in the conversation about our planet's future. Listen to it, learn from it, and act on what it tells us. The preservation of this vast white archive is a shared responsibility, one that begins with awareness, continues with commitment, and endures through collective action. Before we go, one quick ask. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. We love hearing your location. And what surprised you most? If this story moved you, make sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss future deep dives. Share this with a friend who cares about the planet, and consider supporting independent science communication by joining our channel community or following us on social for behind-the-scenes content. Thank you for watching and for caring enough to listen.